One thing at a time. Sounds like good advice, doesn't it? I recently realized something though. One thing at a time, while it sounds like good advice, can actually slow your growth. What's weird is I actually thought that I was a one thing at a time kind of person. Recently, it has come to my attention that that is not true. And I'm going to talk more about how I actually do work as you listen to today's episode. But here's what I want you to understand. This was my big revelation. Those moments when I was working one thing at a time, I was either starting from zero and I wasn't growing yet, or I was in a stalled out moment of my life where things were not moving forward. One thing at a time marks those moments of no growth, no achievements. Think about that for a minute. And welcome to the Authority Journey podcast. Achieving your most audacious goals doesn't happen by accident. Explore the authority journey, what it takes to influence, lead, and succeed. My name is Kathryn Aragon, and I am your host for today's episode, Fast Tracking Success. Here's the truth. One thing at a time can help you kick off growth. But if you are in growth mode, it can actually slow you down. If you want to fast track success, you need to get comfortable with holding more than one thing in your head at a time. You need to get comfortable with juggling multiple projects at the same time. This is something that I think I began to step into this when I was actually working in a corporate office. And there were only two of us writers in the division. And we had a major project that was needing all attention from one of us. We tried splitting it between the two of us, but it was just too overwhelming for us to try to split it. So I recommended, why don't you take this one project, this one overwhelming project, you give it all your attention and make a go of it. I'll take everything else. Well, what that meant was I had about 20 projects on my plate at the same time for the rest of the year. It was a bit overwhelming, but what I discovered was it wasn't as hard as it seems. You can actually juggle multiple projects if you're able to group them and if you're able to prioritize your time and really get organized so you know what to focus on when without putting too much thought into it. It's about streamlining, creating processes that make everything easier. And then instead of juggling 20 separate projects with all their different activities, you're still just focusing on one thing at a time. It doesn't look like it from the outside, but in reality, that's the truth. So this growth mode, these times when you're able to do amazing work, you might actually be doing one thing at a time. But it's not like you only have one thing on your plate at a time. You may have 20 massive projects on your plate, sitting on your desk, waiting for you to get to the next activity. But your focus never wavers. So this is the balancing act. So as I think about this, I think of us as trying to build our career, trying to build our business. And it's the authority journey, if you think about it. You just need to be conscious of where you're going, because many, many times when we talk about you need to do one thing at a time, what we're saying is don't go in multiple directions at the same time. And I hold that's very true. Sometimes I have to reevaluate because I have great ideas and I love jumping on them and making them move forward really quickly. But a lot of people get uncomfortable with the fact that I have so many things going at one time. But I can step back, using the authority journey as my guide. I can step back and say, yes, but every one of these projects is taking me in the same direction. So that's what I want you to do is, first of all, be very conscious of your authority journey. Where are you going? Ultimately, 5 years down the road, where do you want to be? 10 years down the road, What do you want your life to look like? You need to set that goal. And that goal then needs to be deconstructed, moving closer in time so you know what milestones you need to hit. So you need to create your map, know what the milestones are to get you where you're going. And that might actually mean you're working on multiple projects at the same time. But you know what the next steps are, the next 5 to 10 steps are to get you where you're going. Once you have those steps mapped out, it's actually not a hard thing to drop a lot of priorities. Well, not priorities. Let's say a lot of activities on your desk at the same time and make sure they all get done because they're all taking you in the same direction. Sometimes they're interchangeable. Things that you do for one activity will actually help you with another one. They can happen in tandem. They can happen synchronously, which means you are moving forward now at twice the pace because one activity actually feeds multiple purposes. But you can't do that if you don't have the big picture. So always step back first and look at your authority journey. Where are you going? What is your roadmap? How are you going to get from X factor to craftsperson to expert to leader to wherever you want to be? Set that goal, make your map, and now you know what your next 5 to 10 steps are. Now, you can just work on one thing at a time. And I'm not telling you you can't. But if you really want to fast track success, you need to know this bigger picture and you need to know what the next 5 steps are. You need to be working ahead. So many times, the things that are coming down the road, you know what the next few milestones are. Let's just say the next one milestone. In order for that next milestone to happen, there are a few foundational pieces that need to be in place. You can't really work on that milestone yet, but you can be laying the foundation. So here's how I like to do it. I prioritize the activity that needs to happen today. This is my one priority right now. But I know what's coming down the pike, and I start laying foundational pieces in order to make sure that as soon as I get to that step, I'm ready for it. All the foundation is laid, I just need to pick it up and work on it. If I look at it as a writer, let's say that I know what my next 3 articles are going to be. I'm writing article number 1. It's moving forward swimmingly. I'm working on the draft. I'll start editing soon because I'm almost done with it. But while I am researching and reading up on this topic, I start noticing I'm finding research that fits into article number 3, article number 2. And so what I can do is start grabbing those pieces of copy and dropping them into a document to save for these other articles that I need to write. Now, as a writer, that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't I grab that research and drop it into a doc for an upcoming article? I'm not working on those articles, but I am laying the foundation for them. I'm finding the research that I know I'm going to use. So rather than making myself go back and look for it again, I just collect it. I put it into a document so it's ready for me when I'm ready. Many times when people say to you, don't slow down, you don't want to work on more than one thing at a time. You're not actually working on more than one thing at a time. You're working on what you're working on, but you're seeing something that will help you down the road, and you're collecting it. You're taking notes. You're maybe saving a URL somewhere so you can go back and find it. You're making a card in Asana so that you remember something that, hey, I just found this cool idea, or I just had this cool idea, and here are my thoughts. I'm just going to jot them down and save them for when I get there. These are the ways you can think about. Actually, it's like doing more than one thing at a time. No, you're working on what you're working on, but you are laying the foundation for what's next. So when you get there, half the work is already done, and you are ready to just step in and get busy. That's how I work. That's how I fast track things. That's how I make things move really fast. It looks like I get sudden success. It looks like, like overnight success. Think about the overnight successes that we've heard of. Years ago, Tiger Woods stepped onto the scene, and it was like first time on the green. He was smoking. He beat everyone and just kind of blew everything out of the water. Everyone was shocked at this overnight success. But was he? Of course he wasn't. He was out on the greens from the time he was a child. And he was learning his work ethic. He was learning how to solve problems. He was learning what his strengths and his weaknesses were. He was practicing. He was laying a solid foundation. So the first time he competed in the pros, he looked like an overnight success. He went from unknown to the superstar in one fell swoop. You can have that same kind of appearance of overnight success if you are always working a few steps ahead. And you don't have to be you don't have to be a visionary who sees the future. All you have to do is know where you're headed. And that's the authority journey. Take a step back. Look at what you want your life to look like. What do you want? And rule out everything you don't like. I tell people, it's really easy when you're trying to design a business to look at, okay, well, what makes the most money? I want to do the thing that'll earn me the most money. But what if that thing is something you dislike? Are you really eager to build a business? You're going to leave the workforce, create your own business, and you're going to make it something you hate because it makes a lot of money? Come on. No, you are not going to do that. You're trying to build a life. You're trying to build a career or a business that you love. My thing is build a life you love, build a business you love, because you have to be in it. You have to be present in order to be successful. And if you build something you don't enjoy, you're going to hate waking up every single day. That's not the goal. So sit down with yourself and look at what you do love. Look at what you don't love. And let's weed out the things that you don't like. Okay, I'm not even going to look at that possibility because I don't want to live my life that way. And then decide what you do want your life to look like. Now, it is a guess. And I'm going to tell you, I create an idea, a vision of what I want my life to look like. And after I take a few steps forward in that direction, I might decide, you know what? I don't like this as much as I thought I would. I throw it out and I start over. There is no harm in that. In fact, that's a really good test of, is your vision worth pursuing? You may go through several iterations of your vision before you find the thing that really makes you happy. And you may just randomly out of the blue come up with an idea that it's like, oh, I've been pursuing this thing all this time and this is really where I want to go. I found it. Well, it's okay, even if you want to keep this other thing going because it's built and it's working, to start focusing over here. Now, this looks like you're going in more than one direction. But are you? If you found your passion, this is where your journey is taking you. This is your vision. You can continue to keep this wheel going while you're building and laying the foundation so you can switch gears down the road. All the better if you can find a way for these two directions, for these two paths to converge. Let's say I've done a lot of hiking, not so much now, but when I was a kid, we were camping all the time. And many times you would be going through the forest and you would be on a kind of a broad path, and then there would be a fork in the path. And you'd have to pick, well, I don't know, do I want to take the right or the left? Well, let's say that you decided to take the left path. Path less traveled and all that. But eventually it curves back around to the right and it meets back up with the path that was on the right. Many times that's what happens. It looks like it's a divergent path, but it's really just the same path going around some obstacle. Some people chose to go to the right, some people to the left, and it ended up creating two paths to the same destination. You were never off your destination. You just took a slight detour, or it looked like a detour. I want you to not be afraid of doing more than one thing at a time. Many times it's just a slight divergence. It will help you clarify your vision, and ultimately the two things you're doing may be able to come together and actually create something really amazing and creative and, original that only you could have made happen. I've had so many people try to tell me when I'm sharing my vision of what I want long range to say, whoa, hold off, slow down, one thing at a time. I actually do one thing at a time. It just looks like more because I'm laying foundations for what's coming up. That's what I want you to be unafraid of doing. Don't have so many different activities on your table at once that you get distracted and don't do anything well. Do the one thing, set a priority. Do the one thing that matters right now and do it well. But know what's coming up so you can begin laying those foundations. So when it's time to pick up that activity, it's 10 times easier to do. It's not that hard, really. It's how you can make things go quickly for you. It's how you can seem to jump steps. It looks like you're jumping over step 2 because by the time you get to it, it's most of the way done. Quick little fix, it's done, you're ready to move on. But if you're always working 3, 4, maybe even 5 steps ahead, if you're always seeing what's coming up and you're always gearing your brain for what you're going to be doing next, it's so easy to step into it and make it happen. I always call this, the best way that I laid this out was in something I call foundations and doors. And that's why I use that word foundation. Because every time you get to the next step in your journey, it feels like you're starting over. All of a sudden you get to a point where, let's say you got a promotion at your job. Well, at this level, you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of unknown. So you're having to lay a foundation, learn the ropes, put in your hours to try to figure out, okay, what are the intricacies of this job? How do I create the same efficiencies I used to have, but now in this new role? You're going to lay those foundations, and then you're always going to keep an eye out for, okay, what's the next step? Where do I need to go from here? And start opening doors to that opportunity or multiple opportunities, whichever one might open up first. And then you're going to be watching for those doors, trying to open those doors so that you're ready to move to the next foundation of your journey. It's like a journey, but it's also kind of like a skyscraper. You're building something. You're building your life. You're building your career. But it's all about knowing what that next step needs to be so you know what direction to point yourself in. You know how to set priorities. You might be working on more than one thing at a time, but you're only focusing on one. That's how you build, and that's how you build success quickly. That's what I have for you today. What I want you to do is, if you are wanting to learn how to fast track your success with the written word, you're trying to get your messaging right so you can fast track your success, go to KathrynAragon.com where you can learn about my services, my content marketing services. If what you're wanting to do is build your own career as a solopreneur, Solopreneur Life is where you want to go. These are my 2 focuses that are synchronous. They are divergent paths, but I promise you, they come together for me. And I love helping people succeed. And this is how I do it. I can help you fast track your success, but you have to help me by going to the right place. KathrynAragon.com, SolopreneurLife.com, and in the meantime, subscribe to The Authority Journey. See you later, and stay awesome.